My name is Steve Abbott. I'm the president of the Communication Workers of America, Iowa State Council. It's 14 locals from Spirit Lake to Burlington, Council Bluffs to Dubuque. And we just don't worry about what we're doing. We worry about what we should be doing for everyone across the country. There's 700,000 CWA members practically in every town across the United States. One thing we want to talk about is how many people have heard of the Trans-Pacific Partnership? How many people have heard a lot about what's actually in the agreement? Well, you want to know something that's scary is, and like somebody pointed out, we say there's 600 corporate lobbyists, but there's 606 corporate lobbyists that have the inside track on what's actually going on there with the administration negotiating this on our behalf. But not one of our elected 535 members of Congress know much of anything that's in there. Nor will they know what's in this trade agreement until 5 months after it takes effect, if there's a thing called Trade Promotional Authority passed. What that is you've heard of fast track. How many people have heard of NAFTA? This trade agreement is NAFTA on steroids. It's every country that borders the Pacific Ocean. Now, I remember the Pacific Ocean being a rather large body of water, and we're going to show a list of the countries that are negotiating this, but there's 2 countries missing from the list because they want to see what's in it for them before anything happens, and it's Russia and China. So I'm pretty sure they're pretty big countries and everything. But the TPP is a global race to the bottom. Negotiations are in secret. What we do know is leaked to us from people who are on the inside that think maybe this thing isn't such a good deal. Also, there was a member of Congress named Alan Grayson from Florida who demanded to see what was in it. He said, he was told, okay, you want to see what's in it? Come to this office, we'll show you. So he showed up and he said, what do you want to see? He said, show me something on trade. They said, you need to be more specific. He said, okay, show me something on, and I forget what he was using, on metal trades. They said, you need to be more specific. They wanted it down to exactly what he wanted to see, and they brought in the documents, they put them in front of him and laid them there. He couldn't have any recording devices of anything. They took his cell phone. He had no way of communicating with anybody. He read through the documents, shaking his head. He looked up, they grabbed him and said, are you done? He said, not really. They said, well, we have no more time for today. He had to sign an agreement that he would not discuss anything that was in those documents ahead of time. So at the end, all he could say was, anybody in this country who works for a living should be very, very afraid of what's in there. We're talking about U.S. sovereignty at risk. And just in January, there were 6 legislators, Iowa legislators. It was, gosh, I don't have the list with me. It was Eisenhardt from Dubuque, Dan Kelly from Newton, Bill Dotzler from Waterloo, Marty Anderson from Des Moines, Joel Volcom from Iowa City, and Kurt Hansen from, I think, Fairfield. They asked for an opinion from the Iowa Attorney General's office on what happens if this trade agreement is implemented, what happens to our rights to govern and to make our own laws. And it's a good question. The AG hasn't got back to him on it yet, but this is what happens. Let's say we pass a law that we all think is pretty good in the state of Iowa. It seems to work for everybody. In the TPP, if it's going to hinder a corporation's right to make a future profit, they can sue us in the World Court or a UN tribunal for future loss of profits. They're the ones that are writing the thing. Where do you think that's going to leave us? As consumers, as taxpayers, it's going to leave us in a precarious situation. Jobs will disappear in all sectors. Every trade agreement we've ever had, we said we're going to create jobs. Well, okay, with NAFTA, it didn't happen. Jobs went away. They said it was going to grow income. It didn't. Since 1973, like the Heights pointed out, incomes in the United States have actually, for the vast majority of people, have declined. Buying power has declined, while the rich are making more and more money. Health and safety regulations at risk. There's 200 companies that have imported shellfish and seafood from Vietnam into the United States that customs won't even accept anymore due to contaminants, all kinds of stuff, E. coli, you name it. I think we have a pretty good food safety system in this country, but with the TPP, it won't happen anymore. It will curtail their rights to make a profit. They can sue us and say we have to accept their products. This is a race to the bottom strategy, and the Heights, they kind of told, many of these things seem subtle, and I don't care if it has to do with trying to get people not to vote, whether it has to attack a certain segment of unions, any of that kind of stuff. These things, to the vast majority of us, we think it doesn't affect us, so it's not really that important. But if you look at the big picture, all these things are going to get us eventually. Here's what corporations and political allies did: cut labor costs, eliminate unions. That's a big thing, especially for my union. Increase productivity. These are things that all happen. But they said that they would be able to get profits, investments, jobs, wages, quality of life, trade surplus would all go up. What really happened was historic highs of productivity, not jobs. 2 million or 20 million people without full-time jobs, stagnant wages, eroded quality of life, trade surplus. We went from a trade surplus to a trade deficit. With attack on unions, this is wages are stagnant. 1947, the average wages were $462. 1971, about $731. You can see right in there, in the 1971 to 73 place, that's where the real wages, weekly wages, and this buying power actually started to decline, where if it was tied to productivity, it should be $1,178 a week. CEO pay skyrockets. Boy, they're lucky. They've gone from in 1980, this might be hard to see, CEO pay was 42 times the average. That's about what it was in Japan. And Japan is still much like that today. In 2012, the CEO pay had grown to 354 times what an average worker makes. Lucky for us, huh? Do we have any CEOs in here? Before we're done.
I didn't think so.
That's the same one we had. Here we go. NAFTA destroyed jobs, exploded the trade deficit. Before NAFTA, we had a trade surplus of $1.3 billion. It supported 29,400 jobs. 2010, we had a $97.2 billion trade deficit. Over 700,000 jobs are gone. One thing that we keep pushing is, my union has a lot of customer service jobs. Jobs. It's co-sponsored by Tim Bishop, a Democrat from New York, and David McKinley, a Republican from West Virginia. If we can get it out of committee, we think we can actually get this passed, because Republicans and Democrats both think that might be the thing to do. Next one. Jobs displaced due to trade deficits with Mexico. One thing is, in the upper Midwest, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, over there, we've lost a ton of jobs. Originally with NAFTA, jobs went to Mexico. Because it's too expensive. They want more money, so they're even moving to other countries. One of the things that we're throwing a fit of, and we'll bring that up later, is to Vietnam.
I think if you, that light that's shining on that, you might, can you shut that off, Chris? Do you see the one that's just up above?
Yeah. Let there be light or no light. Next one, money. There was a Korea trade agreement that jobs were promised, not delivered. The 2010 Korea-U.S. free trade agreement, chorus, was supposed to add over 70,000 jobs. Instead, we lost 40,000 jobs. Supposed to lower the U.S. trade deficit with Korea. The first year, the deficit worsened by $5.8 billion, 39.8% increase. And this is what actually happened all the way up into the year 2013. You can see on there, we're now at a 25.3% or $25.3 billion deficit with Korea. Next one. Chris, you're gonna have to stop me at the appropriate time because I can't remember how far we go here. More free trade packs, higher trade deficit, and here we go. This shows the percentage of the GDP, gross domestic product, that how we've gone from a surplus up until about 1975, and now we've gone down and we're at a huge deficit. TPP is much bigger than NAFTA. NAFTA on steroids. Here's some of the countries that are involved in the negotiations. As you can see, Russia and China on the far left at the top, not involved in the negotiations, although the slender one that's right below them is Vietnam. Also, Australia, New Zealand, some of the South Pacific countries, Mexico, Canada, the U.S. One thing is, it was late last fall, early winter, the U.S. Trade Representative was sent to Singapore to iron out this deal. They wanted it done quickly before anybody found out what was in it. The other thing was that what they thought they were going to get was trade promotional authority. They thought they were going to get fast track. And Max Baucus, a Democrat from, U.S. Senator from Montana, was the one that brought it up. Now, in the meantime, since he brought it up, and some people were telling him it's not going to happen, including Tom Harkin, said more or less over my dead body, we're not doing this. Baucus has now become the U.S. ambassador to China. So he is no longer there. And now a man named Ron Wyden from Oregon is the head of the committee. And Ron Wyden said, we're not running any trade agreements through here unless the people have the right to see what's in them and until we have the right to debate them and change them. So that's a good thing. Terry Reid has also came out and said, we're not doing fast track. It's not just about trade. If any of these are your, what you think is important, it has to do with all this stuff. Agriculture, importing of goods from other countries, the environment, patents. One thing is, and where's Lincoln? Lincoln, you want to tell them what you found out about patents and intellectual property?
Yeah, sure.